Jon Mikl Thor, welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mark, and that's Jon Mikl Thor, but that's okay. It's spelt funny, Mikl, spelt funny.
I think I stuck to this Scandinavian pronunciation.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, tell me about the creation of the new album, Ride of the Iron Horse.
Well, as a youth, I was very interested in heroes. I've been in this business 50 years, and when I was a young boy in the 50s, I liked TV series like The Adventures of Superman, starring George Reeves, and then also reruns of Boris Karloff as Frankenstein. But I also was very interested and had a great time watching Gene Autry on television, Hopalong Cassidy, hearing about the legends of Billy the Kid, and those were also great heroes of mine. So here I am, many years later, and this is the next phase of my character of Thor, and I'm planning to head out on the Great White Plain, and there's a lot of life left in the this Iron Horse.
Excellent. Now, the press release said that you were back in the saddle, but when I looked at the cover, you truly were back in the saddle.
Yeah, galloping forward. Yeah.
Tell me about that whole concept. Like, what's going
Well, there's many times in my shows I would back in the day come out on stage and with a chariot and a horse. I'd be more the Norse god of thunder character with a hammer and everything. And we're doing something a little different this time. And instead of the chariot being drawn by horses or goats like in mythology, it's I'm riding a horse, and galloping away, sort of like my heroes of the past, of the icons of the West. That doesn't mean to say I'm not going to be rocking and rolling, or I'm doing just Western songs or country songs. I'm still out there. It's heavy metal and it's rock and it's all those things.
But it's an interesting influence that's available on the cover, and musically there are a few things like that going on. So how did that influence get into your metal world?
In my travels, there's always some kind of influence that goes on. I hear something from somewhere and it can go in, or from the past. I'll listen to old records, whether it's the Beatles or the Yardbirds or whatever, and then listen to more modern stuff. Like there's even a little bit of rap in there, like listen to Usher, and I just get influenced by all forms of music. But I just want to say too that cover was the artist was Timo Wuerres from Germany. He's an excellent artist, and he did the cover for me.
This also marks, like you mentioned, 50 years as a recording artist. How do you feel to be able to reach such impressive anniversary?
Yeah, not only a recording artist, but a touring artist. I say it's the power of music. It gets you in your blood. And when I hear songs like, when I started practicing again for the tour, suddenly I get rejuvenated and I get really worked up, and I start singing a powerful brand of rock and roll, just gets in my blood there.
You've mentioned touring. So what plans do you have for touring and promoting this album?
We're going to go out and head at first on the first leg of the tour, head into the West. We got sort of a Western theme. So we're going to head to places like Denver, Colorado, coming up on March the 2nd. And then on March 4th, it's Salt Lake City, Utah. Then Los Angeles on March the 8th, and then Portland coming up on March 15th and 16th. Two big shows in Portland, and then there'll be Calgary and Edmonton after that. So we got the first leg will be very Western toned type of tour.
Excellent. I'm in Chicago. Hopefully down the line, you will make a stop here as well.
Well, Chicago is one of my very favorite places. We've had some great gigs in Chicago in the past. I remember Reggie's. We had a great show at Reggie's and some other great places in Chicago. Touring. Just not long ago. Really, it's not long ago to me. I think about it's like already 2004, 2005, and 2006. We did some good shows there.
You've mentioned the artist, Timo Werds, who did this cover. Was this was an existing artwork, or did he do this specifically for you?
No, he based that off of pictures of myself, right? That I sent to him. And yeah, it's all original, totally original. So, and he also did our last album, which is called Alliance, and that's all an original piece, original paintings.
So let's look at those 50 years. How did you get started in the first place?
I started playing accordion when I was very young. My parents wanted me to play accordion. And then I saw the Beatles in 1964 in the Ed Sullivan Show, and I was very impressed by them. And I kind of didn't think the accordion was such a cool instrument. So I put that down, stopped playing polkas, and picked up a guitar and started playing guitar. And then I got involved with various bands of the time, more along the lines of the British invasion, like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. There was a band called the Ticks, like a wood tick, and we thought that was a cool name. And that's the kind of stuff I did until things got a little heavier later. We got into, as the music got heavier, in culture, I started getting into heavier bands.
When did you find your own persona within the music?
I'd say that started happening in 1970. It started becoming more clear to me. I didn't want to just be playing bass and or guitar in a band. I wanted to be on my own more or less and out front. I want to be a front man, with of course having the camaraderie with the musicians, but I wanted to be a front man, like Alice Cooper. When I saw Alice Cooper in the early 70s, he really impressed me. So I wanted to be a lot like Alice Cooper, or guys like, of course, Elvis, who would magnetize a crowd. They could captivate a crowd and put on a very entertaining show.
Yeah. You did quite a number of records. Which Thor albums would you say capture you in your prime?
I guess Keep the Dogs Away really captured me in my prime, and Only the Strong, Unchained. They were my golden era, but that's not to say that later on, albums like Metal Avenger, which I did in 2015, and some of the others that came about after that, like Hammer of Justice and Beyond the Pain Barrier, were great albums, because I think they were too. But I think I was full of energy and excitement of all these new things that were happening. Like, we came over to England in 1984 and played the Marquee for the first time, and it was so exciting. And then shortly after, we recorded Only the Strong. So it was an exciting time, and I think that excitement was captured in the grooves, in the recording.
Yeah. You just mentioned Keep the Dogs Away. Here it is, and it's
Oh,
full.
yeah, that's yeah.
At this release so many years later.
Well, what do I think about it?
Yeah, like, how do you reflect on it so many years later?
Very fondly. I think it's Cleopatra just re-released a Purple Haze vinyl version of it, and I think back all those years ago, I think it was a lot of fun to make, and it was my first break into sort of something bigger at that time. Because before that, I was putting out some records, but we were like really pounding the pavement. I was with a band called Thor and the Imps, which featured, of course, guitar player Frank Soda, and we were just touring and touring and touring, and hoping to get something big, something really major to happen, and we would put out, like EPs and tapes, but it was nothing like when Keep the Dogs Away came out. That really sort of boosted everything to where I was in Rolling Stone magazine, Us magazine, and we got notoriety.
Well, you followed that album with two very impressive releases, an EP and a full record, right? We have
Yes.
Unchained and Only the Strong.
Yeah, you got a good collection there.
Really, I think you had a great momentum there. What do you remember from that time?
That time was after Keep the Dogs Away. There was an era where the record company and the management company had a battle together and kind of held my career up. And so then I had to go back on the road and tour again. And I did just years of touring, because there is a space between Keep the Dogs Away and Unchained. And then Keep the Dogs Away came out in 1978, and so but Unchained came out in 1984 or 83 in the U.S. and 84 in England. So that's that was quite a few years, you'd think. Well, the thing is, all that time I was writing songs and touring and trying to get a record deal again. And the music had changed. The music became, back then, I would say Keep the Dogs Away was more of a power pop or punk type of album, whereas Unchained was more heavy metal. And that was what was happening back then at that time. You could say Twisted Sister, Manowar, Exciter, all the bands that were happening around that time were more of a heavy metal type of band. Unchained was a great opportunity for us. It brought us to England. It gave us a break to England. It started making noise in the U.S. when I finally got a deal with Mongol Horde Records. They were putting out metal because metal was popular. So then we got a chance where I signed with Motorhead's manager, Douglas Smith, and we got the opportunity to come to England and play at the Marquee and so on and so forth. And it changed my life forever, because we were well received in England.
In fact, the new album includes some of those unreleased tracks. I mean, I'm looking at Flight of the Striker, amazing song, or Had It Been Another Day. And I'm thinking, why didn't that come out at the time when it was written? I mean, that could have done some damage.
Yes, you never know. It's sort of like stabbing in the dark with songs, and you kind of cherry pick them at times. And you think, okay, maybe we should put on Electric Eyes instead of, Flight of the Striker, or or another day. You just don't know sometimes. You only and the first the Unchained was an EP when it first came out, so we only had so much room to put on. So we've had 6 songs already, and you wonder why. Why some get tossed or unfinished, but this time around we were able to finish them. Like I believe Friday the Striker, I think that one we started in the late 80s. That was going to be for another album, and then we completed it, remixed it in just recently.
Yeah. Not only were you recording great music, but you are also known for providing a great live show. How did you develop that show?
The show was developed over the years. I wanted to give. I was a bodybuilder, right? So I won quite a few titles as a bodybuilder: Mr. USA, Mr. Canada, Mr. Universe, and in the 1970s. So then I wanted to sort of put that together with music. I wanted to meld muscle and music, and so we had a show where I wanted to be kind of like a gladiator, like Steve Reeves was in Unchained, in Hercules Unchained. He was Hercules Unchained and Hercules, and there was all those sword and sandal type of movies going on, and that influence. And everybody was doing something theatrical at that time. And like I said, Alice Cooper would hang himself. Kiss would breathe. Gene Simmons would breathe fire. So I created this gladiator type of character on stage, and that evolved. That kept changing, where I'd wear more and more costumes. As I said before, I came on stage with a horse-drawn chariot and all kinds of things. I tried and experimented with everything, and I thought I could do strength feats to entertain the audience.
Mhm.
And where I could do something that was sort of unbelievable, like blowing and exploding a lifetime guaranteed hot water bottle, having bricks smashed off my chest with a sledgehammer, and bending steel in my teeth. And and then we still played the music, but then this would go complement the music, the strength feats.
What was like the craziest thing you attempted on stage, in your opinion?
One time I wanted to lift the heaviest person in the audience up with a harness. And so I invited who is the heaviest person in the audience. And a very heavy person came up. I guess they were over 490 pounds. And I got the strap around them, and I would put the mouth guard in my teeth, and I put the harness on my head and a chain to hold the person up, and we were on a platform, and I was going to lift them up, with my neck and the strength of my neck and my shoulders and my teeth. So anyhow, I did lift them up, but then the platform broke, and so we rolled into the crowd and almost crushed the front audience.
That must have been a show to remember, though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that during those 50 years, there were some not so happy moments. When you reflect back, what comes to mind about things that perhaps did not work out?
I think unhappy moments were, the bare bones times where I wanted to give up. I was like, for example, I'd be in New York City and I'm trying to get a record deal. This is after Keep the Dogs Away. And there was those issues between the record company and the management company. And then after everybody was out of the way, there was nothing. I had to try to secure a record deal again. What was I going to do? I remember going to New York and just pounding the pavement, trying to go from record company to record company, and the doors would close. No, you're no good. You're no good. It's like a traveling salesman. You're knocking on the door selling vacuum cleaners, and nobody wants them. No, so it was very difficult. Those were depressing times because the money's running low. You're trying to do some shows here and there in New York City and Manhattan, and none of the labels are really biting. But then I was able to assemble a really great band, and I took a chance and recorded the album myself. That's Unchained I'm talking about. We recorded the record myself. We went to a great studio and recorded it, and it wasn't too much longer after that I got a P&D deal, a pressing and distribution deal with Mongol Horde Records, and that was a big help, because then suddenly we got write-ups in Billboard magazine saying, Thor was back with a new record, and then Douglas Smith from Motorhead, he's the manager of Motorhead. Douglas Smith saw it on on a trip going back from England to New York, and he said, "Oh, maybe there's something with these guys that I got to check into," and that's kind of how it happened. But that was tough times, when you're eating bread and water and soya beans, trying to keep everything going.
Yeah.
Believe it in yourself.
No, it wasn't easy during those days, and I've heard many stories like it. Finally, what drove you not to give up, but to keep that passion alive?
I just think at that time, I just the belief that I could do it. I really believe that I could get out there and make another record anyway. And that was my desire, to make another record. And the music is really what drove me. If anything drove me, it was the music. And believing, hey, I got some songs. I wrote these songs, and I want to get them out there to the people. And I'm glad I did, because when I go out and tour now, I'll be singing those songs that I wrote back then when I was pounding the pavement. And that's Lightning Strikes, Electric Eyes, Anger. I was angry, so Anger was my middle name.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jon Mikl Thor, thank you. Congratulations on 50 years.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on the album. You are back for good. Great times.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We'll see each other in Chicago.
See you. Okay.
Bye.